Morning turned into a sigh of relief, and then when the afternoon rolled in, to say I was a little pissed would be a massive understatement. I was livid. I was just incensed. I completely snapped. Thank God it was off camera, but man, I think a real reaction happens off camera, and yeah, I was pissed. You're gonna find out why tomorrow. Welcome back to Grizzly Talks Football. I'm the Grizz, and we got Week 11 college football reactions, and we got reaction to the Week 12 AP poll. I know the AP poll doesn't mean shit now, but we still gotta go for it. It's my duty to go over the AP poll with all of you. If you haven't already, make sure you check out the playlist. I'll make sure I will leave it in the description box so that you guys can go check it out. For those of you who are new, so you can watch every single episode so that you are all caught up, and you also have future videos whenever I post. Also be sure to hit the red subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. And be sure to hit the like button, and without further ado, let's get to the games. Kicking off this week, we got the Thursday night football game between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the LSU Tigers. 11 versus 15, and Alabama dog-walked the Tigers 42-13. It was 42-6 at one point. All I gotta say is, I fucking told you so. I fucking told you that Bama is still here. Everybody's saying that Alabama's washed. Sure, they have 2 losses, but this is still, most of the team is still players that have been playing under Saban, and these can still continue to dominate in SEC play as well. I would personally love to say, can we just ignore the passing game, because that's not important, despite Nussmeier getting 27-42 for 240 yards. But he had a touchdown and 2 picks, so that's why I want to forget all about the passing. Because the rushing game took over this entire game for both teams. I mean, come on. Like, I understand Justice Haynes and Richard Young got touchdowns in this game, but Jalen Milroe, I'm convinced Jalen Milroe was fucking Naruto in disguise, because this man had 185 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns in this game. LSU couldn't stop them. Even in 2 years in a row, you couldn't stop this guy? No more complaining about how Alabama made South Florida look like they were ready for a Peach Bowl now because you lost to them twice in a row. Jam Miller also led the team in receiving, but that's not really important, really. As for LSU, at least Caden Durham had 8 yards to carry and 63 yards. Leading receiver, no surprise here, was Kyron Lacey, who had 5 catches for 79 yards and the only touchdown through the air. The only touchdown for that LSU offense, nonetheless. Unfortunately for Alabama, they only got 2 sacks in this game, but Jahad Campbell, a forced fumble and 1.5 sacks, and that recovery was by Tim Smith. And there was also 2 interceptions in this game. Deontay Lawson and Bray Hubbard got picks this game. Absolutely amazing game for them. Jalen Milroe's rushing numbers shows because LSU couldn't get there a single time. Look, 2 pass defenses, I get it. Whit Weeks had a solid game with 15 total tackles, and he had a pass defense, but LSU could not stop the run or the pass all game. Well, they really only had to run, so they couldn't stop the run game. GG Alabama, you dominated on both sides of the ball, and you continue to impress everybody for some reason. But then again, I still think the polls are SEC biased, but, this was a very solid win. I will admit it. Next up is Big Noon Kickoff. I didn't even realize this at first, but apparently Big Noon Kickoff was Colorado against Texas Tech. Nobody even told me that this was Big Noon Kickoff, but I soon later found out that this was it. But anyways, Colorado, who was ranked 20th in the college football playoff polls, the ranking you see is AP rank, not college football playoff rank. Just so we get that clear. Anyways, Colorado beat Texas Tech 41-27, but Texas Tech had a lead at one point. They quickly blew that first quarter lead they once had in the third quarter. Yeah, Colorado, as soon as they had that second quarter, they just took off with the ball. 31-14 in the second half. They ran away with that game the whole way after that first quarter disaster. Quarterback play was very solid. I mean, it was very good. 30-43 for Shedeur Sanders, 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, with Martin getting 24, 40, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Both quarterbacks actually played pretty well. Shedeur Sanders actually added a rushing touchdown to his total, making it 4 total touchdowns, but that was basically it for Colorado's rushing game. As for receiving, Travis Hunter led the team in receiving with 9 catches, 99 yards, and a score, and Will Shepard and LaJohntay Wester also had scores in this game as well. Taj Brooks had 137 yards rushing and a score in this game. Wow, 4 yards a carry. Jeez. The leading receiver was Josh Kelly with 8 catches, 106 yards. He had more yards than Travis Hunter and they still lost. Well, Jalen Conyers also had both of the touchdowns through the air. As far as the defense goes, oh boy, they had 7 sacks this game. 2 from Arthur Walker and 2 from BJ Green. There was also Keaton Wade and Martin McNeil with 1.5. Interception by Hill Green, 2 forced fumbles by Walker and Green as well. Yeah, the guys who had 2 sacks. And fumble recoveries by Silman Craig and 1 by Shiloh Sanders, which he returned for a touchdown. Defense played lights out this game. Texas Tech did get 3 sacks. Good game by Jacob Rodriguez with 17 tackles, 1 sack. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. They just could not stop Colorado. They couldn't stop Shedeur. With this win and a loss that we'll be talking about a little bit later, Colorado sits in 2nd place in the Big 12 standings with a 5-1 conference record. Whew. Hope to see you in the Big 12 championship, but honestly, I hate Colorado fans almost as bad as Utah fans, but no offense, Colorado, Coach Prime, but for the sake of your fans being so toxic, I hope y'all lose to Utah next week. And we had one other top 25 matchup besides College Game Day, and that was Georgia Ole Miss, which, holy shit, this final score doesn't seem real. But it is real. Ole Miss brought Georgia to Oxford and stunned them 28-10. Yeah, Ole Miss held Georgia to 10 points. All I gotta say is, what happened, Georgia? What happened? You only scored 10 points against Ole Miss's defense? Why? Carson Beck had another horrible game. He actually had 3 turnovers this game. He had 2 fumbles and an interception this game. He threw 20 of 31 for 180 yards. While Jackson Dart, he did get hurt for a little bit. He did throw for 200 yards, though, for the touchdown and pick. Austin Simmons was actually very solid if you look at it that way. Not really going to talk about the rushing game for both teams because they kind of sucked. I will say though, Nate Frazier was the only guy who scored a touchdown for Georgia's offense. The only one. And I'm not even going to talk about the receiving game because those receivers aren't even worthy of it. On the other side, Ulysses Bentley scored the only rushing touchdown for Ole Miss. And the leading receiver for Ole Miss was Caden Lee, who had 4 catches for 81 yards. The only touchdown through the air was by Antoine Wells Jr. Only 1 sack for the Georgia defense, who was supposed to be elite, but times change. Always. And Dan Jackson was the only guy who had a highlight, really, with the interception. For Ole Miss, 5 sacks for the defense, 2 for Jared Ivey, and 2 for Princely. I'm not going to bother pronouncing his last name. I'm going to butcher it. Interception by John Saunders, 5 pass defenses, and 4 forced fumbles with 2 recoveries by Walter Nolan. By the way, he was a transfer from Texas A&M when he was the number 1 recruit at one point. And Suntaran Perkins. Just like Alabama did to LSU, Ole Miss just dominated on both sides of the ball. That's all I can really say. Georgia just had no chance. It feels weird saying that, too. It's great to be a BYU Cougar. Oh, it's great to be a BYU Cougar. Yes, sir. Holy War. BYU survives Utah in Rice Eccles 22-21. Whew, I'm out of breath because I'm super excited that we won this game. I didn't watch the entire game. I saw what happened in the first half. We were losing by 11, and Utah, for the most part, choked. I mean, seriously, you had a 99.7% chance to win this game, and you blew it. And if I hear one more time that Utah got robbed, you did not watch the entire 4th down play, the one that we got a holding call out of. The Utah defender clearly grabbed the receiver. Clearly. It was clear as day. It was in 4K. It was in 4K. It was so clear. I will have to give a shout out to Nick Saban because he called Retzlaff a baller and he didn't throw a single touchdown. He did have 219 yards and a rushing touchdown, but yeah. Those aren't exactly baller stats for a quarterback. I will say that. Even Brandon Rose, who I was not expecting to start against us, actually outperformed him. He had 112 yards, sure, 12 of 21 passing, but he had 2 touchdowns and a pick that game. He was actually pretty good. And also, Damian Alford's first throw was an interception. Yeah. I'm safe to say that Alford won't be throwing another pass this season. No turnovers, obviously, and Jake Retzlaff, like I said, got a rushing touchdown. LJ Martin did have 6 yards to carry, though. Let's not hold our horses too high. Leading receiver was Chase Roberts with 6 catches for 91 yards. What a dog. Brand Queith got the only rushing touchdown, but that wasn't the whole story in the rushing game. We got killed in the rushing game. Leading receiver was Dorian Singer with 5 catches for 76 yards, with the touchdowns going to Micah Bernard on the receiving end, and Brand Queith also on the receiving end. Yeah. Brand Queith had 2 touchdowns, 1 of rushing and 1 through the air. Micah Bernard's only touchdown went through the air. Crazy stuff. Despite not getting to Rose one time, they did pick him off. Oh no, they picked him off once and they picked off Alford once as well. Jacob Robinson and Crew Wakely, 2 of our secondary, I'm very sure, got interceptions this game. Tyler Batty, he had a tackle for loss this game, not terrible. Fumble recovery was by Talon Alfrey, so that was pretty good. Defense came to play, it's just the offense and the rush defense are a little shaky. Utah's defense had 3 sacks in this game, 2 forced fumbles, no turnovers for BYU's offense, luckily. And a heck of a game from Kareem Reed and Logan Fang, too. 3.5 tackles for loss between those two. Oh yeah, shout out to Samaya Vaughn for 3 tackles for loss as well. Unfortunately for them, it wasn't enough because BYU was able to squeak out a win with Will Farron kicking some field goals, including the last second one to win the game. Oh yeah, and almost forgot to mention, I already gave a shout out to Will Farron, but shout out to Keelan Marion as well, who had a 96-yard punt return for a touchdown in the second quarter after Utah's first score. It was right after their first score, too. Feels good to be 9-0 for the first time since the pandemic year. Yeah, 2020. Hopefully we could be 10-0 for the first time since 2001, but we are playing Kansas, so I'm not going to get my hopes too high, especially since they made a big upset earlier. Yeah, earlier than we did. And that is 2 times in a row on Utah. Before Kansas, we got a couple more upsets to get to. We only had 3 unranked versus ranked upsets. And this was the biggest one. Georgia Tech, 5-4, beats number 4 Miami 28-23. Ever since Georgia Tech got a lead in the second quarter, they never let it go. Like, Miami's only lead came in the first quarter. That was it. And Miami's luck finally runs out. I thought we were going to be next as soon as Miami lost, but somehow we did not lose. You can't really point the finger at Cam Ward. Despite fumbling the game away, he had 25 of 39 for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. The defense just could not stop Georgia Tech at all for some reason. Unfortunately, I did see an Instagram post that said that Miami was all offense and no defense, and man, they were right. Georgia Tech quarterbacks combined for 99 yards, 11 of 16, and 2 touchdowns between Aaron Philo and Hans King. Damian Martinez had 81 rushing yards in this game for 5 yards to carry. Unfortunately, no touchdowns other than that. Receiving was led by Jacoby George, who got hurt twice in what I saw. I think I saw the entire game. 7 catches for 88 yards. 3 touchdowns were by Isaiah Horton, Elijah Arroyo, and Xavier Restrepo, who I'm very sure leads the school history with receptions and receiving yards, I'm very sure. Great for him. As for Georgia Tech, Haynes King and Jamal Haynes got touchdowns, including 93 and 83 yards respectively on the ground. Receiving numbers, the only 2 really noteworthy things were the touchdowns where Chase Lane and Malik Rutherford got scores. They couldn't get one sack, and it really shows. This defense struggled against the run. Passing wasn't a big worry for Georgia Tech because the run offense, I think the triple option might be back in Georgia Tech. Only one turnover for Georgia Tech's defense, but they did get 3 sacks in this game. Forced fumble by Romello Height with a recovery by Jordan Vandenberg. Congratulations, Georgia Tech. You got yourself another huge win. 2 top 10 wins, even though, can we really call that a top 10 win over Florida State? Because that team is 1-9. Yeah, they got killed by Notre Dame. You could see up there on the top left. Yeah, not so much of an impressive win now, but this one was definitely impressive. I don't think you guys are going to be ranked. The Jackets won't be, but they could be close. They could definitely be closer than we all have thought. Up next, we got Iowa State losing to Kansas in Lawrence, 45-36. Let me just say the final score was not the story, because Kansas dominated that game from the beginning. You can't point the finger at Rocco Betts. 380 yards on 24-37 passing, 3 touchdowns and a pick. He was great. Jalen Daniels, 12-24, but 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. Both quarterbacks played well, very well. Besides the touchdown by Carson Hansen, rushing game was very disappointing. And the leading receiver was Jalen Noel, who had 8 catches, 167 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Wow. And Jalen Jackson had the other touchdown. But Kansas's rushing game killed that Iowa State defense. Devin Neal, 116 yards, 6 yards to carry, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Daniels also added a rushing touchdown to his total. Leading receiver was Quentin Skinner, who had 4 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown, with the other touchdown going to Luke Grimm. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. Not much else to talk about Iowa State's defense for, except for 2 pass defenses by Jeremiah Cooper, but that's about it. Kansas got 3 sacks. An interception was by Romello Dotson. He returned that for a touchdown, and that basically sealed the game, sealed the upset win for Kansas. Where's this been all season, Jayhawks? Let me just say, the past 4 seasons, Kansas has been causing some mayhem in the Big 12. Both old and new. And they continue to do so. I'm really scared against them in Provo next week. I really am. If Kansas wins this game, don't be surprised. And this is the final unranked versus ranked upset. We had Virginia taking down a Pitt team that was once 7-0 until they got humiliated by SMU, 24-19. Man, sorry Pitt. I thought maybe you guys would have a chance in the ACC, but now that is not looking likely at all. Oh yeah, and by the way, SMU is first place in the ACC. How crazy is that? Their first year in the ACC, and they are at the very top. I'm so proud of SMU. Quarterback play was pretty bad. I mean, Calandria had 16-24 for 66% completions, but 140 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. And Pitt's quarterback room, 14 of 35. That's pretty bad. 160 yards and a touchdown, 2 picks for Nate Yarnell. Virginia's rushing attack produced 2 touchdowns from Xavier Brown and Kobe Pace, and Xavier Brown also had a receiving touchdown in this game. As for Pitt, Desmond Reed had 80 rushing yards, 5 yards to carry, but Daniel Carter got the only rushing touchdown in this game, with Gavin Bartholomew getting the only touchdown through the air. Defenses came to play this week. 3 sacks, in this game. 3 sacks in this game for Virginia's defense, interceptions by Corey Thomas and Jonas Sinker. And Pitt had 4 sacks. They had 1 more sack than Virginia and still lost. 2 interceptions for Kyle Lewis and Taman Lynham. Virginia just had 1 more touchdown than Pitt. So yeah, basically Virginia just pretty much outscored Pitt. Like, they played almost the same game, except Virginia had 1 extra touchdown that pretty much gave them a big upset win in Pittsburgh too. Obviously now these rankings are irrelevant, but like I said earlier, it is my duty to show you the AP poll this week for week 12. Oregon and Ohio State are the top 2 teams in the country. There's no denying that. Texas and Penn State moving up. That's fine with me. I mean, I would expect that. But Indiana's ahead of Tennessee at 5 and 6. That's insane. Man, Indiana's 10-0 for the first time in program history, and they are looking hot. Too bad they gotta play Ohio State 2 weeks from now. Like I said, Tennessee is 6. I don't mind it. BYU 7. Notre Dame's 8. Bama 9. Ole Miss 10. Top 10, I am actually fine with, but the fact that Indiana's in the top 5 is just unreal. I think that's their best ranking in program history, if I'm being honest. Georgia and Miami fall to 11 and 12 after their embarrassing losses. Proves them right, yeah. I didn't expect Miami to drop that badly, but I guess it was a bad loss. Boise State survived Nevada, so they got dropped 1 spot to 13 because Ole Miss beat Georgia. SMU drops to 14, A&M drops to 15. Interesting. Army's at 16. I still cannot believe they are getting disrespected in the playoff bowl. Clemson 17, Colorado 18, Washington State 19. I honestly think Washington State has 1 loss and probably should be ahead of Colorado. But since the Pac-12 isn't a power conference right now, I could see why they put Colorado ahead of Washington State. And Kansas State is 20. I'm fine with it. Louisville and LSU are 22 and 21 to round out the top 25 of the bottom 5. South Carolina's ranked again, and Missouri's back with 24th, and Tulane, after losing to Kansas State and Oklahoma, is at 25. That Oklahoma loss is not very good, though. Let's be honest, Oklahoma's trash. I'm actually going to do my college game day pick right now, and this week it's Tennessee against Georgia. Yep. Another SEC game day. I mean, it's expected. Don't worry, we're all waiting for Ohio State versus Indiana in 2 weeks. That's going to be a game. Maybe, but you probably know where I'm going to pick with that one. As far as Tennessee and Georgia goes, I think Georgia has won a certain number of games in a row against Tennessee. I might be wrong. It might be like 6 or 7, I don't know. But the last time Tennessee beat them was like 2016. I have no idea. But I'm going to have to pick the dogs in this one. Again, Tennessee, you're a pretty solid team, but Georgia's going to be too much for you. Your offense is going to be pretty stagnant. They're going to get shut down, and defense might not be able to stop the ground game. So, I got the dogs winning. Yep, I'm a boring guy, so yeah, hate me all you want. I'll take the hate. And that is going to do it for this episode of Grizzly Talks Football. If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you smash that like button, hit the red subscribe button, and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. It's the Grizz, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace!